Cody Talks Education, Episode 5. Welcome to Cody Talks Education, a perspective on education from a non-educator. All right, everyone, welcome to Cody Talks Education. I'm Cody Heitschmidt. I've got Ginger Lewman here in studio with me, hammering away on her phone, which is cool with me, by the way. I'm all about it because I'm sure that you're doing something incredibly constructive.
I absolutely am. How could I not?
No. We've also got a pretty exciting guest with us, Todd Nesloney, which is like baloney. Todd Nesloney is on with us. I think, Todd, tell me if this is fair or not, that there may be more people in the world that know you as Tech Ninja Todd than they do as Todd Nesloney.
I will say that is very true. That's why I was glad recently when Twitter kind of changed the way it looks on your phones and you see people's names before their handles, because more people have recognized my actual name now.
Yeah, absolutely. Twitter's a cool thing. I don't have near the reach that either you or Ginger do, but it's still kind of a cool thing when you're in a room at a conference or something and you're talking to someone and they don't know you, and then it dawns on them that now you're Ginger Lewman on Twitter, so you don't really. I'm a couple of times in my life I've had someone go, "Oh, you're Cody KS," and it's a cool thing. But I do agree with you that it's nice that people are starting to learn real names through the value of it. Let's talk about Twitter real quick. I'm gonna throw a loop at you. It's so cool the way things are shared, isn't it? I mean,
I completely agree.
It's just amazing the access that we have to everything.
Well, I always tell people that I really feel like the only reason, or the main reason I have been as successful as I have the last year and a half is because I learned how to become a connected educator. And I teach with amazing people on my campus and in my district, but regardless of how amazing they are, their ideas are still limited. And so being able to be connected, I now can learn from people all around the world and gain all this new insight and these new ideas and completely revolutionize the way I do my classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just your campus. Every teacher, including you're limited. It's not everyone's limited by what their geography and their upbringing. Everyone was limited to what their geography and their upbringing exposed them to. Upbringing being child rearing all the way through teacher rearing and becoming a more experienced teacher. It's just incredible in every aspect of life. And I know people that I made my kids get Twitter accounts back when they didn't think it was cool, because and monitored it and did all the right parent things. If my mom's watching, I monitored the mother. But the exposure to becoming worldly while you're just sitting in your own house is incredible to me. I'm sorry, that's not at all what I told you we were going to talk about, but
you're fine.
I never cease to be amazed about it. What we are going to talk about is the term flipped classroom. Anyone that's ever watched this show knows that I do an entire show based on the fact that I know nothing about what my show is about. But I bring people like Ginger and Todd in, and I think I can ask these questions that maybe other educators that host shows don't want to seem quite as dumb as I'm willing to seem about the subject. So the flipped classroom, I started hearing about it a couple of years ago with my exposure here through ESSDACK, and you see it around. It's kind of more than kind of, it's becoming an industry buzz term in education. Is that fair?
I would say that.
Ginger, there's people that are just listening. You can't just nod. You have to make a vocal. Ginger nodded her head.
See, here's the thing. The term buzzword, I think is not necessarily a positive term. So I didn't want to say, yeah, it's a buzzword. Maybe it's something really good still.
Well,
I'm just saying.
It's just, but people are talking about it.
Yes.
Okay.
People are buzzing.
It's a popular topic in education right now.
There you
That's
go.
right.
Exactly. Thank
People
you for
are trying
clearing up
something
Ginger. Thank you for making it appropriate for Ginger the way that I worded it.
I just tried to nod, man.
So what I did is the guy that doesn't know is I started asking people that I know and respect, hey, what is a flipped classroom? I don't get it. Are the desks upside down? And I'm not 100% sure, Todd, that of everyone that I've ever asked, that any of the answers have actually aligned, which for a feeble mind like mine just confused me more, honestly. And your email signature says Flip Class Certified in it. So I thought, holy cow, this is the guy that knows. He's Flip Class Certified.
Pressure.
I want to have that discussion. I want you to tell me, as a dope that doesn't know, what a flipped classroom is.
Well, I think the easiest way that it's defined is traditionally the way that teachers teach is we stand in front of the class and lecture, and we send homework home for the kids to do. The concept behind the flipped class model is that you take that style of teaching and flip it around. Now the kids go home and watch a brief instructional video that I've created, and when they come to class, they do what they traditionally would have done for homework, but now there's peer and teacher help.
Which I got to tell you, I like because really, the hands-on learning in the previous model was done at home without a connection to the adult that's supposed to know what they're talking about in the situation. Is that fair?
Yeah, and and I said that's the easiest definition. It's not necessarily what I do, because I know
here we go. Now you're really clearing it up, Todd. This is what it is, but it's not how I do it.
But that makes me happy.
That's the easiest way to define the flipped classroom and to give you an idea of what it is. And that's the way I started flipping. But my reasoning behind flipping was that I was tired of teaching a test, and I wanted more class time to do hands-on inquiry-based learning. And when I originally started flipping, I did it the way I just described you, but I was still just doing worksheets. So those worksheets I would have sent home, now we're doing them in class. So I'm like, what am I doing differently except adding that extra workload in of me having to make videos as well? And so the way we flip is that we do the videos at home. All of the instruction happens at home, the majority. And then in class, we're doing inquiry-based, project-based activities, not any worksheets or standardized questioning or things like that.
Woo-hoo. Because that's my main problem with flipped classroom, and I know that Todd is doing amazing stuff.
And there's a lot of teachers that I know that flip, and they take that traditional definition, and it's just it's all test formatted and worksheets in the classroom, and they've freed up that time to do that by providing the lessons at home. And if that works for you, great, but I can't stand teaching like that, and it drives me insane. And why come to work if I'm going to be bored? And so I wanted the kids to learn the way I like to learn, which is making stuff.
It's a good place to start if you're going to make a change, right?
I agree. And like I said, I did it for 3 or 4 weeks, and it got me really comfortable with the model of flipping.
3 or 4
weeks before he changes
as
everything.
Opposed to 16 years before I decided I needed to change something. Okay, I got to tell you how much my blood pressure went down, because when I asked Ginger to come do this, she goes, you know how I feel about most flipped classrooms, right? And I'm like, oh, God.
And when I saw her on the screen when I joined, and I was like, oh, I just saw a post she made the other day about how much she hates flipped classrooms. So I'm hoping she doesn't shoot me out of here.
Well, and I felt that, and I thought, that's why I'm not talking. I need to make sure that, I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to. I just refuse to.
So she's just going to sit there and do nothing, because that makes it a better show.
Listen, I didn't ask to come into this. You said, get in here. I said, all right, let's hear it.
Well, and then I said, get in here, but prior to you saying, you know how I feel about some flipped classrooms, right? I'm like, oh well. How do I get out of this invite that I've given her now?
Well, I feel good because I knew it was going to be with Todd, and I knew that Todd was not okay with, I'm going to lecture at home because lecturing at home is better than lecturing in the classroom.
Right.
I know that's not where you live and where you stay, so I didn't. Otherwise, I would totally have bowed out. If I knew that it was somebody else, I'd have been like, oh, hey, I got a phone call, got to go.
Well, that's good to know.
So she was genuinely excited. I will give you that to know that I was having a conversation with you. Here's the next thing that I always try to ask when I think that I see something cool happening in education. And I hate to even use the word better. It's just something cool, because maybe it's not for everyone. I'm a firm believer that nothing but oxygen is for everyone. But I sometimes ask it as, why aren't more doing it? Or I ask it as, what are the barriers? What's going on? How does a teacher that's out there that's maybe excited by this conversation or by your tweets or by the concept of a flipped classroom, but is a little bit worried to jump that far out of their comfort zone? Is there a way to edge into this thing?
Well, when I always present about this, I tell my story, and I'm an all-in guy. So if I'm going to do a little bit of work, I might as well do the whole thing. Ooh. So we went all in from day one, but I do understand completely that is not working. That does not work for everybody. And so the advice I always give is find something that you are really comfortable with and flip that one activity or flip that one unit. And then see, what are your kids? Are they ready for this too? Are you ready for this? You don't have to flip an entire thing. I have a third grade teacher who said, at my campus, said, I love what you're doing, but I don't think my kids can handle it. And I don't know how to see if they can handle it. And I said, well, what are you learning about right now? And she told me, and I said, well, then just flip that. And then just send some information like that home. And if it's beneficial, continue it and see if you can expand upon it. If it was like, no, it bombed, the kids hate it, I didn't like it, it wasn't for me, then don't do it.
And okay, so now I'm really going to press because I'm a marketing guy. And I don't feel like it's you, so I feel a little safer asking the question. Any of these innovative concepts, and it's not only education, it's every industry across the world. I feel like there's people that get so excited, and obviously you're an excited guy about innovation, just new, cool stuff.
Right.
Some people get so excited that they end up almost seeming like they're passing judgment on anyone else that's not as excited. And in my opinion, that creates a big barrier for people ever trying new things.
I agree.
Okay, that's all I really wanted was for you to agree, because I love the fact that you gave the story about the third grade teacher, that you went in and gave him the option of it not being an all-in thing, that hey, try this out. And even if it doesn't work out and you do totally different things than I'm doing, that's still cool, as long as you weren't so shut down and closed-minded that you think what you're doing now is the best it can ever get and can't be improved.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that what I'm doing now works for me. And that's what I always describe to people. When I do my presentations about flipped class or project-based learning or inquiry-based learning, the thing that I always tell them is I'm going to share with you my story. And my story may not work for you, or you may only take bits and pieces from me and use it. But I often get a question of, there's 5 elementaries in my district, and I'm the only one there are 2 of us that are flipping, 2 5th grade math teachers, but I'm the only one that's doing it with the project base and all that. And people always say, well, why don't you get everybody else on board? And, there's only so much I can do. And if it doesn't work for them and they don't want to do it or they don't see the value, I don't feel like it's my job to, I want to convince them through my students, not through me. And so I let my students speak for me, and I let my students be the proof that something is working or that there is change happening. And so I hope that my students will inspire them to try it, but it's not my job to say that flipped classroom is for everybody, because it's not. There are some teachers who, if they made videos, I would be bored out of my mind. And so I would not ever encourage them to make any videos. But it's just like teaching in the classroom. When I'm taught before I did this, my lessons were not the same as the other teachers. I chose to teach the way that I enjoy teaching, and this is just another style of teaching.
I think Ginger was gonna either cry or fall out of your chair when you said, "I want my students to be the proof of concept." I paraphrased, but you said something along those lines.
Well, here's the thing. When I was in the classroom as a teacher, I would take people, because people would invite me to come and talk about one-to-one laptops and PBL, and come talk to our group about this. And I said, that's cool. I'm going to bring kids, right? And I'm only going to introduce them and they're going to talk, because I can tell you all day how awesome I am, or how awesome the class is, or how awesome it is for the kids. You will believe it when you hear from and you hear them. You hear 6th graders saying amazing things because they're really truly learning. They're not just kicking the dirt in the floor and what So I'm glad that you have kids present with you. That makes me so happy.
It's as an outsider, as a non-educator, I jump to frustration on. I think there's so many cool things happening, but I wish they were happening on a bigger magnitude. It's really why I have this show, because I want to ask these ultra basic questions on how can we just try these things and get to it. And we've followed you for a long time on Twitter, Todd, and I appreciate you coming on. Where, say someone watches this and they want to just learn more about what you're doing, send them there.
Well, my website, I have a bunch of my resources on there. I've done some webinars about the flipped classroom. I have an interview with my students from last year. Some of my kids make their own instructional videos. So we've got all that on my website, and it's just toddnesloney.com. That is TODDNESLONEY.com. But there's a bunch of resources on there, and I send people there to just check out my stuff. Because, like I said, I have a bunch of kids stuff on there too, and I want them to see what my kids are doing, because then they'll believe me more if they don't just hear me being a talking head saying how amazing things are. But like Ginger said, when you hear it come out of a kid's mouth, there's so much more buy-in. That's why, like, when we do trainings with parents and stuff, I try to have the kids train, or have the kids train on the new technology tools. Because if a fifth grader can do it, then hopefully we will be able to get you on board as well.
Okay, what if because of the fact that you have a Texas A&M lanyard on your neck right now, they can't stand you? Who else out there?
I just make sure not to wear the lanyard. I just keep my A&M ring on.
There you go. What? No, my question is, I tried to make a funny segue into who else out there do you recommend that's doing cool stuff along these lines?
Well, I know on Twitter the hashtag FlipClass is a great hashtag to go and check out to connect with other educators. Another really cool resource that I got to be a part of is a Flip Classroom book that came out at the beginning of September called Flipping 2.0. I've got a link to it on my website, but it's also on Amazon and on Kindle. But there's about 15 to 20 of us teachers who each wrote our own chapter in the book about how we're flipping and how we found success. And I think it's a really good resource to get a lot of different perspectives over how flip class is viewed.
Excellent. Very cool. Very cool interview, too, because you answered everything in the way that at least I hoped that you would answer.
Good, I passed.
Yeah. Yeah, the marketing guy at ESSDACK says you're a good teacher. We'll send you a certificate or something.
I'm adding that to my email signature.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I love your perspective on trying new things. I'm a firm believer that it really kind of doesn't matter what the new thing is in some ways. We should just be seeking to improve instead of riding the same wave we've been riding for so long. And not that that was a bad wave. It's just the world's changing and everything should be changing along with it. So thanks for your time. Anything else you want to say before we shut her down, Todd?
I really appreciate having me on. It's been a blast, and it was great getting to see you again, Ginger. I haven't seen you since ISTE.
I know.
So thank you so much for even asking me to be a part. I get really excited and feel very blessed every time. So thank you.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Ginger, closing remarks?
I'm just glad to hear that you're doing great stuff with Flipped Classroom. There are so many who I question, and you make me feel better for their movement.
Thank you.
Super. Thanks, and we'll see y'all next time on Cody Talks Education.